Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Pondress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football.
I'm still watching the playoffs, but I've already got my eye on free agency.
Today on the show, we will review some of the notes on the team early in the offseason as we prepare for free agency and coaching changes. We also have a very special guest as we welcome former Raider, special teams ace, and long snapper, Jon Condo.
All right, Raider Nation, we want to hear from you. So here's how you can get in touch with us. Give us a call on the Only Nation podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Our email address is onlynationpod@gmail.com, and we can also be found on Twitter and Instagram at onlynationpod. You can also check us out on Facebook and YouTube at The Only Nation Podcast. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on all your favorite social media accounts and podcasting apps. And also, check out our website at onlynationpod.com. Don't forget to send us a message with your name and address, and we'll get some free Raider merch sent out to you.
Here's the latest Raider news.
On Tuesday, the Raiders announced that former Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator Gus Bradley will be taking over the defense as their new defensive coordinator.
You know, last episode we talked about Gruden not hiring the people that he knew. But, you know, listening to Raider Nation Radio, I kind of get what he's doing. They're talking about how, of course, he's going to hire somebody that he's comfortable with. And then looking back at Gus Bradley's defenses, they're much better than Paul Guenther's. So, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and let the season play out in 2021 before, you know, I start to really form an opinion, I guess. But I'm hoping that this guy can come in and do what we need him to do.
You know, lots of Raider Nation has just been angry about this hire. I'm like, well, you know, Wade Phillips is not coming. I get that. A lot of you are angry, but give Gus Bradley a chance. He's got a track record that speaks volumes, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I thought he was going to get hired anyway, but let's just sit back and let's see what he can do.
Yeah, he wasn't my first choice, but I did think that he was most likely to be hired in the few days before he was. I'm okay with it, though. What I really wanted to see in the hire, and I mentioned it last week, was to bring in a defensive coordinator that could really build the defense around his players and not put them in positions where they aren't going to succeed, but that he would build the defense around them. His defensive have historically been much better than Paul Guenther, and I think that he really is going to be able to set up our defense so that the players can be successful and the defense can be successful.
Yeah, so just take a chill pill, Raider Nation, and let's get ready for 2021.
Of the free agents the Raiders are looking at during the offseason, one that we will all be looking at is wide receiver Nelson Agholor. The decision is whether or not to bring him back and or how much money he might garner on the open market. Either way, he has certainly earned himself a nice payday.
I'll tell you what, I really do hope they bring him back, but they're not going to bring him back if he's going to be overpaid. And I'll guarantee you there's going to be some team out there who's got some money that they're going to flash his way. It's just a matter of whether the Raiders can match whatever that money happens to be.
Yeah, I hope that he comes back to the Raiders. You know, we gave him a shot when he was probably at the lowest point, or one of the lowest points of his career. He was known for dropping the ball all over the place. He came in, he got the structure he needed. He got a good quarterback that was delivering the ball to him. So I hope he gives us a chance. He doesn't necessarily need to give us the home team discount, but don't just abandon ship for, you know, an extra $1 million or $2 million. You know, come back to the team that really, you know, gave you a shot when you needed to prove yourself, and let's win some more games.
I think he'll be open to coming back if we make him a solid offer. Maybe not the home team discount, but he knows that we gave him a chance, and I think he'll appreciate that. So he will definitely consider us as a serious option.
Let's hope so.
With the Hall of Fame announcement upcoming, we want to acknowledge Coach Tom Flores. Even though it's not official just yet, Coors Light, a proud partner of the Raiders, will feature Flores' likeness on limited edition cans available in Las Vegas. Fans can also show their support, explore rebates, and join a petition to call for Flores' inclusion at CoorsLight.com/Iceman.
I mean, get it done. It's a shame that he's not already there. You know, We don't even need to say the first Hispanic. We all know that. But just a hell of a coach. 2-time Super Bowl champion. Even though with the Chiefs, he won a Super Bowl as a player. He won a Super Bowl as an assistant coach. He was a broadcaster. The guy is Hall of Fame worthy, and it should not have taken this long. So get it done, Hall of Fame, and get him in there.
If there was ever a situation where there was a makeup call in the Hall of Fame, this is it, because they blew this so many times, and he should have been in there years ago. We all agree on that. But this is a classic makeup call by the NFL.
Absolutely. A total of 4 Super Bowl rings. The man is a legend. Do it right, Pro Football Hall of Fame. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Just because he had a couple of weak years at Seattle, he is a legend and he belongs there. He's belonged there for years.
All right, second-year defensive end Max Crosby has achieved a rare Ironman distinction for the Raiders. Max played in every game this season despite all the injuries and impacts of COVID-19 happening all around him. He also played in every game in his rookie year in 2019. He has not missed a game in his NFL career so far. He also led the team in sacks for the second year in a row with 7. And he blocked 2 field goals in the last game this season against Denver. Congratulations to Mad Max Crosby.
And I remember when Max came in at the beginning of training camp and he broke the hand, and rather than sacrificing time, he said, tape it up, put a cast on it, do whatever you need to do. I just cannot miss reps. He demonstrated early and often that he was going to be a guy who could not be kept off the field.
Yeah, I won't be hiding very much by saying that he's probably my favorite pick of that draft. I've got his T-shirts, his long-sleeve shirts, short-sleeve shirts. I don't have his jersey yet, though. Hey, Homer, I've got a birthday coming up. If you'd like to get me something, you can get me a Max Crosby jersey. Just, hint, hint. But I love the guy. He's got a motor on him, and he's hard to stop. I think we need to keep encouraging him, build up the defense around him a bit.
Well, if I got the money, I might just do that for you because I love you, Heidi.
How about that?
All right, the Raiders attempted to upgrade their defensive line in 2020 with the additions of Carl Nassib and Malik Collins. Nassib is likely to be back since he is still tied to a $5.75 million guarantee in his contract. Nassib is more of a rotational pass rusher versus a 3-down player. What the Raiders need is more reliable and steady options up front.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, Collins. Goodbye.
I will address that in Heidi's high five.
He's someone who I thought would be such a difference maker. I thought he was going to come in and really make an impact on our defense. And I've been so disappointed that Collins has just been a dud.
Well, you weren't the only one. I thought he was going to be, a rock in the defensive line also. Be that guy in the middle that can push the middle of the pocket and help out those defensive ends, but that did not work out at all. Hopefully, we address that in the draft this year.
Yeah, neither one of those guys panned out. It just didn't work.
In weeks 1 through 10, the Raiders averaged 139.2 yards a game and 4.4 yards a carry. They had a 6-3 record over that span. In weeks 11 through 17, the Raiders averaged 94.7 yards a game and 3.8 yards per carry. They had a 2-5 record over that span. So the running game had a definite impact on the outcome of many of the games during the 2020 season.
Gruden continued to pound the rock. He wanted to continue with that run game despite the fact that the law of diminishing returns was kicking in toward the end of the season.
Well, I haven't really seen it written out like that, but that really speaks volumes about what happened to the Raiders in the last half of the season. That is a huge drop-off, 45 yards per game.
I mean, that's true, but I still want to point out that we could easily be 10-6 if we would have got the stop in Miami and got a stop versus the Chargers in Las Vegas. Yes, the offensive production dropped, but the defensive production was never really there. So that's kind of tricky. But yeah, it'd be nice to see that the run game stay as strong as it was earlier in the season. But I think that even though Booker had a good season, we still need that big thumper to come in there and wear down that defense, and I think that'll help the run game tremendously.
I totally agree with that as well. Great point.
All right, last week, the Raiders signed long snapper Liam McCullough to a reserve future contract. McCullough was originally signed by the Raiders as an undrafted free agent It should be noted that before this season, he played for 4 years at The Ohio State University, where he served as the primary long snapper and handled the snapping duties in 54 of 55 games, missing just one game in his collegiate career. McCullough was successful on 577 consecutive snaps. So there's accuracy and there's also dependability. And of course, as we've always heard, your best ability is availability.
Good. Get some competition in there for Trent Sieg. I really like Trent Sieg. I think he does a really good job. But any type of competition is always a good thing. So, yeah, definitely bring him in. Make sure that we are putting out the best product possible.
Yeah, competition is always good for the team. Hopefully one of these guys can be the next 10-year long snapper like we had in Jon Condo, who is coming up in this interview.
And I really liked McCullough in the offseason. I really thought he was going to pressure Trent Sieg for a starting role, and I was surprised that they cut him or put him on the practice squad as early as they did. But we'll see what happens this year. Now, on Tuesday, the Raiders signed wide receiver Trey Quinn to a reserve future contract. Drafted in the 7th round by the Washington football team back in 2018, Quinn appeared in 15 contests in 2018 through 19, and then had a 1-year stint with the Jacksonville Jaguars. As a senior at SMU in 2017, Quinn was a first-team All-American Conference selection, starting all 13 games that year and setting a school record with 114 receptions on the season, leading the nation with 8.8 receptions per game.
It's early. A lot of these guys, we'll see what happens. I'm glad to see that the Raiders are making moves, though. Just keep on, signing guys that you can bring in for competition, like we were just talking about. Keep bringing these young guys in, and let's see what they can do.
Good. I'm all for it. Bring in some competition, some healthy competition, build that depth. I'm all for it. Let's do it. I know when I played athletics, competition was something I really built on and thrived off of. It was something that drove me to do better and better.
Speaking of bringing in new faces, if Gus Bradley could bring over anyone from his defense to join the Raiders, perhaps he could look no further than linebacker Melvin Ingram. Ingram will be a highly coveted free agent, and if you're able to pair him up with both Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski, that linebacking core could really be something awesome next year. We'll just have to see where the free agent money is going to be directed.
I've got no problem with that at all. I do think his price tag will be too high for him to join us, but making a run at it, building our defense a little bit more, I'm definitely all for it.
So I'd like to see, Morrow come back. I'd like to see Corey Littleton earn his money. Muse, we still have Muse. I know a lot of people are calling him a bust or whatnot, but I'd like to see what he can do. And Kwiatkowski, look, let's just be real. Kwiatkowski is that middle linebacker that we need. He's a thumper. He's got the green dot on his helmet. He's a leader. The defense played much better with him in there. So I'm excited to see, what we got. And let's go ahead and draft some linebackers. I know that we talked about this last episode. Looking at Corey Littleton's name, he was a bust. Malik Collins was a bust. Nassib was pretty much a bust. We are not having any luck with these free agents. So on defense, I'd like to see us draft for sure. But Melvin Ingram would be a good signing, though.
Hey, Homer, you mentioned Nick Kwiatkowski a minute ago. He has another name too, right?
The Dude.
Yeah, the Dude.
The Dude abides.
Yeah, there was a good article about him on the Raider Ramble, so I retweeted it on our Twitter account. So check it out.
We'll have to do that. And you heard it here first.
And now we want to bring you the special interview we had with former Raider Jon Condo. He was the long snapper and the team's special teams ace. We hope that you enjoy this interview and would really like for you to give us a call and give us your feedback. Our guest today played for the Raiders for over a decade. In high school, he was a Renaissance man, not only on the football field where he played running back, linebacker, and punter, but also when playing sports in general. He was All-State in football and baseball and won the PIAA Wrestling AAA classification as a senior. He went on to play college ball at the University of Maryland, where he became the long snapper and played as a backup defensive end. He then headed to the NFL, where he had short regular season stints with the Cowboys, Falcons, and 49ers, but he spent the most time with the Raiders from 2006 to 2017. While with the Raiders, he was named to the Pro Bowl on 2 occasions. He finished his career with a total of 180 games played, 50 tackles, and 4 fumble recoveries. The man I'm talking about is Jon Condo, and we're happy to have him here with us today.
John, welcome in. Yeah,
Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk football, answer any questions you have for me, and let's get this thing going.
Well, this is great. On a side note, before you start asking the questions, and of course the panel doesn't even know this, but I have a birthday coming up a week from Wednesday, and the significant thing about that is I'll be turning number 59.
Oh, man, it's going to be the best year of your life.
Absolutely.
Best year of your life.
Now, Jon, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Jon, man, it's a pleasure to have you on the Only Nation podcast. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us. And I got a few questions for you. We'll start off with, can you describe your relationship with Al Davis and what was it like to play for him?
Yeah, so my relationship with Al, I got there when I got to the Raiders at the end of the 2006 season. And my first meeting of Al, was running off the practice field. He'd come out at the end of practices, watching practice on the field, and I just had a short interaction with him. He's just kind of like, "So you're the new guy?" And I was like, "Yes." And he's like, "Well, good to have you aboard." And that was kind of it. Looking at Al, he's such an icon of the, not only of the Raider organization, but also in the NFL. Obviously, I was pretty nervous speaking to him for the first time, but, there's obviously an aura about him that, stood out there, and everyone knew when he was around. His presence was definitely felt by everyone. And just to play for him, it was an honor and a privilege. It is, one of the, like I said, he's one of the most iconic figures in the NFL and in the league history. And I'm a man of history, and just to be part of that history, it's definitely humbling to me. And it was an honor and a privilege. It's hard to explain, other than that. He was just a great coach and a great owner. And I'm very lucky that he gave me the opportunity to play for the Raiders. I had a couple short seasons there with the Cowboys and an off season with the Patriots. Got released twice. I was sitting at home, not knowing if I'd ever get a phone call again. I was thinking my career was over, and then I got a call from the Raiders, and they just gave me an opportunity, and that's all I wanted. I just wanted an opportunity. They signed me, and so I owe Mr. Davis and the Raider organization a lot just for giving me that opportunity, because a lot of people – they get one shot, and if you don't make the most of that opportunity, you just might not ever see that again. And I was fortunate enough to have three, and who knows where I'd be with, if I didn't have that last opportunity by the Raiders.
Yeah, Al, he always talked about once a Raider, always a Raider. What does that mean to you? And, what kind of relationship do you have with the Raiders now?
Yeah, it's definitely once a Raider, always a Raider. When I was there, you saw all the former greats come back, and again, a man of history. I was like in awe, seeing the likes of Kenny Stabler. Obviously we had a bunch of coaches there, Willie Brown, Freddie Blitnikoff, Art Shell, just so many great players, former players that would come back. And I always wanted to introduce myself just because, I'm like, man, if my dad could only see me shaking the hand, whoever right now, like, because my dad was a big football fan back in, 70s and 80s. But my relationship now with the Raiders, it's great. I'm rooting for them. I have some contact with them. It's a little, because of COVID, there's not a lot of stuff going on. I went back one time this past season. I got to see this new stadium, which is, pretty spectacular. I'm definitely jealous. But yeah, it's one of them things. It's once a Raider, always a Raider. Great relationships, still on the team now, that are players and, staff and the personnel, and all throughout the office, and I built some great relationships, and I have some lifelong friends that are because of the organization. I can only thank the Raiders for that.
That's cool. And so thinking back, what are your observations about playing in front of home crowds at the Oakland Coliseum? And are there one or two things about Raider home games that really stood out to you?
Yeah, playing at the Coliseum, from the looks of it, it's like, man, like this doesn't look that great. Coming from the outside, going in, because it's not, one of the newer stadiums that you see. And it's like, I don't even know when it was built, probably late 60s, maybe early 70s. But once you experience a game there, like the game day atmosphere, that is something that when I look back, that I'm very fortunate that I got to experience, plenty of games at. But when I also look at it, it's a must for, it was a must for any sports fan. It's not to be a Raiders fan or any other fan, just to go there and experience, because it's one big party. You go out in the parking lot, see everyone tailgating and just the joy of being out there and celebrating, obviously, the Raiders, but celebrating football in general. You put in that long weeks of work and you get there, some people fly in, Friday, Saturday, but you get there early Sunday morning and everyone's just in a great mood, partying and having a good time. It's like a big block party. But to play the game inside and to experience some great games in that stadium, it's memories that I'll never forget. The fans, being inside the stadium definitely stood out. That's probably the most memorable thing that I'll remember, is just how the fans, were always into the game. And a lot of stuff was very unpredictable in the sense of, how they cheered and everyone dressing up. I mean, it was just, seriously, it was a sight that you had to see. I played in just about every stadium I think there is in the NFL. You see stadiums that it's just, people are just dressed normal and it's not really, I don't know. It's like, are they even into the game? But I would have to say one of my favorite memories were always like in that stadium where like whenever it would be a close game in the fourth quarter and we always like got a score late in the fourth quarter and just that stadium would be rocking. And it's just, it gives me chills now just to think about that, those times that we shared with my teammates and with the fans in general. And I think of like the game, even though it was a blowout, but when Marshawn was dancing on the sideline, I mean, that's how like everyone feels like on the sideline, but no one ever really like acted out like Marshawn. But that's how the fans are acting. And it's just like we were all in it together. And that feeling that you had, I don't know, it was just a great feeling. And never really felt that anywhere else where I played. And definitely, I'll never forget.
Yeah, I had a great experience in Oakland. I was lucky enough to go twice. The tailgates were awesome. And I was lucky enough to get on the field for the flag unfurling. And that was special too. Be on the same field that all the Raider legends played on. That was special. So, yeah, it was definitely a must experience, and I'm glad I got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple questions for you, Jon. Can you share with us what it was like to work with both Shane Leckler and Sebastian Janikowski? Were there any interesting or odd rituals that you might like to share?
Yeah, working with two of the best to punt the ball and kick the ball in the NFL, I knew that going in there. And I was definitely nervous when I first met them, but seriously, right when I met them, they made me feel comfortable. I probably owe my career to them. Being a young guy, being cut, a couple times, I might not have been totally confident in myself, but when I met them, they made me feel comfortable, and just being comfortable made me feel extremely confident. And Shane always said, "Hey, don't worry about the snap. I'll make you look good." And Bass, like he said, "Yeah, like same thing. I'm going to get that ball through the uprights, so don't worry about it." And just by them easing the pressure on me a little bit allowed me to like really just do what I do naturally instead of like overthinking things or being too mental about it. Just allowed me to relax and do my thing. They definitely had that aura about them where I don't want to say they didn't give a. I don't want to swear here, but it was just, hey, they did their job. They did what they were supposed to do, and they were the best at it. And I fed off that energy. I wanted to prove to them and the rest of my teammates that I belonged. And we did our thing. And fortunately, we did our thing really well, and we went to Pro Bowls, and it was definitely a fun time. And we spent a lot of time together, off the field and on the field, obviously. We always rode together for home games. Every away game, a lot of our flights were Friday nights or Fridays, afternoons. And after practice, we'd hurry up and get a shower and get dressed. And we would just go pick up some food to take on the plane with us. But while we were waiting for the food, we'd always have a couple beers. And it's definitely, the first time I did that with them was special because I was like, man, like they're kind of like accepting me. But that right there, it just, those are the memories that, I'll always have and I'll always cherish. And they mean a lot to me. They're still great friends and talk to them all the time. And they both had hell of careers. And I was just lucky enough to ride along with them.
And you definitely, for quite a few years there, it seems the special teams was the best unit on the Raiders. And all of you are legendary. You by just being there and just doing a great job and, being the mold that kept everything together. Shane Leckler, Sebastian Janikowski, Jon Condo. They're who I think of when I think of a good special teams unit.
The special teams holy trinity.
That's right.
Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, it was them doing their job. They made me look good, but we did what we had to do. We're all individually motivated. We all three of us, we wanted to be the best at what we did. And I think it showed on the field, obviously with Shane and Bass with their stats and stuff like that. But I just wanted to do whatever I could do to better the team. Obviously performing my abilities as a snapper, but I wanted to be, the best leader that I could be, the best teammate that I could be. I wanted, whoever it was to look at me and be like, I could count on him. Yeah, any given moment of the game, I could count on Jon Condo. And that's kind of how I played the game.
Jon, you're way too modest because in addition to being a great snapper on the punts, particularly, you were always one of the first ones down the field and either making the tackle or right in the middle of it. So you're very modest when it comes to just the snapping duties because you played so much more of a role in the special teams than you give yourself credit for.
Absolutely.
Well, I credit that to my defensive background. I went to college as an outside linebacker, defensive end, and I remember when they moved me my freshman year after I redshirted, our snapper fell out of school, and I raised my hand. I could do it, even though I never snapped before. I just wanted to get on the field. So they threw me in there, and it was actually in the summer. It was right before it was training camp, basically 2 days, and I was the only guy that could do it. And I loved it because I was like, yeah, I'm finally getting on the field. But after the first several weeks, I tell you the truth, I hated it because I was like, okay, well, we don't have a backup, so you can't play linebacker anymore. And I was like, really? Like, I found myself in practice hanging out with the kicker and the punter. I'm like, I'm not one of these guys. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't want to hang out with these mental cases. These are my friends. But fortunately, my dad, I sat down because I told him, I want to transfer because I played baseball, I wrestled, I had scholarships in both, and I wanted to be active. And my dad sat me down and just reminded me about commitment. And he said, the University of Maryland committed to you for 4 years. I think it's only right that you commit that 4 years to them. So I agreed with him. And talking about commitment, it's only fitting that, I ended up with the Raiders, where one of the biggest slogans in the NFL is commitment to excellence. And it's pretty fitting how that works out. And so being committed is very personal to me. And whatever I set out to do, if I sign my name on a dotted line, I definitely felt like, I was 100% committed to whatever I'm doing.
You were there in Houston when Al Davis passed away in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
What did that do to the general mindset of the team? And what were the emotions that were running through the players' and coaches' minds?
Yeah, so I haven't really thought about this that much. I mean, it was, 9 years ago? I started thinking about, when I saw the question, I was like, man, what was really going through our heads? And I remember getting on that flight. We knew that Mr. Davis wasn't getting on that flight. We knew, he was having some issues, but he was having some issues, in the last couple of years, in the previous years. And I remember getting on the flight, and we got on the flight like nothing ain't nothing. It was just another week. And then I remember waking up Saturday morning. It was an emergency, not emergency, but like a team meeting was called. And usually, the first meeting on Saturday mornings were special teams or individuals or something like that. But it was a team meeting. And I just remember people starting to, chatter beforehand. But I remember Hugh Jackson got up and was talking about it. It was pretty emotional, because everyone in that room, their lives were impacted by Mr. Davis. Whether you were a draftee or a free agent or a coach, everyone knew how much Al Davis wanted to win. And everyone was there for a particular reason, to win. So we all had that bond together that we were there for one reason. That was because of Al Davis. And so it was definitely pretty emotional. We carried on the rest of the day, It was tough to focus because there's a lot of camera crews and all that stuff were trying to get interviews just because it was pretty serious stuff, But we woke up Sunday morning, and I think everyone, when we got to the stadium, had a sense of focus that wasn't really there in previous games. I mean, I've seen it in other games, but it was something special about this game just because of that. Everyone knew they were there because of Al Davis, and so everyone, I think, obviously wanted to win this one for Mr. Davis. And even though we weren't really talking about let's win it for Mr. Davis, I don't think there was that much rallying calls for that. But everyone it was like this quiet aura that everyone knew we had to do it. And I just remember going through the game. It was a tight game, throughout the 4 quarters. And it was funny. We went on I think it was an interception with 10 guys on the field. which is kind of crazy. And we got an interception. We won the game. And definitely in that locker room after it, it was a very special moment. It was a very special moment that I can remember vividly in my mind. There's not too many games I can remember vividly, at the end, after the game in the locker room, but that one I can. I know exactly where I was at, type of moments, when we broke it down and when Coach Jackson was breaking us down and talking to the team and whatnot. And I remember after the game, I gave Mark a big hug, and it was definitely emotional. And I think people were pretty focused, and we were all in it together, and we're all working, for the same goal. And it's pretty special. It's kind of crazy and powerful when you get a group of men, working towards the same goal, what they can do. And that day we were definitely all dialed in to do that particular goal.
And I remember that indelible image of Hugh Jackson on one knee, just in tears as they had that final interception, and they realized that they had the win, but it was the first win without Al, and the emotions just came in a flood.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I remember the flight home, and everyone was talking about it. Everyone was happy, in a good mood, and just kind of carried on. Wish we could have done more the rest of the season, but yeah.
All right, so John, thanks for that. Now, just kind of changing gears a little bit, coming back to the present. Now, putting on your general manager's hat for just a brief moment, could you share with the nation where you think the team is right now in terms of progression and what you think they need to do to improve?
Well, you're putting me on the spot now. Obviously I watch the Raiders. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, looking at things, what you think needs to be improved. But, I know the personnel. I don't know them, actually, I'm not in the locker room with them anymore or anything like that. But I think obviously they have good chemistry. They have a good team. They have the right type of players. They have playmakers. They have people to make the plays. And that's what you need in the NFL in this era. You need people to make those dynamic plays, those long gains, long runs, long passing plays. You restrict them on defense, and you got to have great special teams play. You got to be able to win the field position game in the special teams. And I mean, looking at the games, it's kind of, I'm not on the field. I don't, I'm not able to observe, the film afterwards and stuff like that. But I think being able to compete, obviously you have one of the best teams in the league in your conference or in your division in the Kansas City Chiefs, which the Raiders beat once this year. They put up a lot of points. So your defense, just has to come ready to play each and every week. And, there's probably a lot of people that will probably agree with me, obviously. And the Raiders got to do something with their defense. They really want to be in a game. I mean, you got a great offense that can put up points. But, sometimes your offense isn't going to be able to put up 20, 30, 40 points a game. Sometimes it's going to be a close game where they can get up 17 or 20, maybe even 13, and your defense is going to have to win you a game or two or keep you close. And it's not just on the defense, special teams as well. Everyone has to play in unison together. When you have a good special teams unit to put the defense in a good position, they could definitely help out a defensive unit that way. And you get a team that if you're not going to score a touchdown, but if you get a couple first downs to get the ball around the 40, 50-yard line where the logo is, then you're backing the other team up and making it harder for them to score. I mean, it all works together. But if you have a team on offense that's going 3 and outs and then you're punting backed up and the other team's getting the ball around the 50, their chance of scoring is a lot easier. So it all works together. I think in general, you just want to get the right players, to build a team first mentality where each player is holding each other accountable. I was on the Patriots for a very short stint there in 2006. It was just an off season. And that was a player-led team. Like I was telling someone the other day, it was like our conditioning in 2006 in the summertime, the coaches wouldn't even go out with us to condition. It was all led by the players. And it was the players' responsibility to do it. And that was the only team that I ever did that. Anytime that we did conditioning, it was always, strength coaches or any other coaches were out there. Just make sure we were doing it correctly. Once the team kind of takes control and it's not so much the coach up there barking at the players or the assistant coaches barking at the players, it's the team itself barking at each other like, hey, we got to do this. You can't let me down. Once they get that, then you're going to see some special things.
And we're all anticipating playoffs next year. So we get closer and closer the last couple of years. So we're hoping in 2021 we finally break through the door for that.
Yes, sir.
So we're all keeping our fingers crossed. Now, it's been a while since many of the Raider Nation has heard from you. So tell the fans what kind of endeavors you've been involved with now, and just update us a little bit and tell us how fans can follow you and some of the things that you're working with.
Well, I just moved out of California. I moved to Arizona this past summer, a little bit closer to Vegas now, so I could probably see the Raiders a lot easier travel-wise. But I have 3 kids. They keep me busy right now. I have a 7, a 5, and a 3-year-old. I coached their soccer teams this past year, which is pretty frustrating from a coaching standpoint, trying to coach some first-year soccer players and trying to teach them how to do things. I'm pretty hard on myself, but I understand it was a lot of the players' first-year experience, so I wanted to make it fun. But it was a good time. I'm getting into real estate here, residential, commercial, investing. Definitely excited about that. But all in all, I'm a big time, I'm a family man right now, first and foremost, dipping into some real estate and just doing whatever I can to put myself in a good mood and to lead a happy and healthy life.
Hey, but listen, you've got 3 kids, so you have a snapper, a holder, and a kicker.
Yes. Yes.
You just have to decide which is going to do which.
I know. I think my middle child will definitely be the kicker. If I'm trying to, pin out, their personalities right now to comparing them to me and, Sebastian and Shane, like my middle child is definitely a Sebastian Janikowski type mentality. She just wants to go out there and kick the ball right now. She plays soccer and she's just all into it. She's like really into it. My oldest daughter, she'd probably be the holder. She's the mom on the field. Not that Shane was the mom. He's definitely the father figure to us. But he's always getting us in position. So my oldest daughter would be the person getting everyone in position, and I think my young son would be me, just based on his personality and what his characteristics are. And I think it'd be a pretty good trio right there.
Well, fans, you heard it. So in about 20 years, when Jon Condo's daughter breaks into the NFL as a kicker, you heard it here first. Just remember that.
Yeah. She actually wore, I think, number 11 this year. So
that's cool.
I know. I'm making them all wear like 11 or 9 or either 7. I don't know. Former players, former teammates of mine that, I'll make sure they get their jersey numbers.
That's awesome. All right, Jon, that kind of wraps us up. Is there anything else that you might want to say to our fans while you still got the chance?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I appreciate, the fans in general. That's one of the reasons that kept me going for as long as I did was the fans in general. I love playing in front of the stadium full of people. More importantly, I love meeting you guys. I loved, anytime I can interact with you guys off the field, it was definitely a pleasure. My parents, small conservative town in Pennsylvania, didn't really get out that much. And I just remember they were scared to death their first visit to the Coliseum just because, they grew up Steeler fans and they thought like, oh, it's the silver and black. They're bad fans. We'll get in fights and all that kind of stuff. But they're definitely nervous when they came out. But seriously, it was my dad's favorite, environment to be around. He loved it. Right when he walked in, the people accepted him. He's obviously bragging about me, and once they found out that, that he was Jon Condo's dad, like everyone loved him. And he had a, gathering out there. He knew, he texted. I don't even think he ever knew how to text, but for whatever reason on game days, he found out how to text and he knew how to text. And he knew where all the tailgates were, where all the food was. And he was definitely welcomed. And that right there, like, made me feel really good. It made me feel like, you know what, this is my family, from the East Coast coming out here, and my family now on the West Coast taking care of them. And that made me feel special. So that always, it was special to me, and it made me feel like I owed it, not only playing an unbelievable game for money, but just for, the fans in general, for taking care of my family, my direct family. I owe so much gratitude to you guys, and definitely does not go, without notice, and definitely appreciate it. And I love every one of y'all.
Jon, thanks so much again. And of course, I know that it's probably been said many times before, but once a Raider, always a Raider.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you, Jon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jon. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Jon, for joining us on the Only Nation podcast.
Yeah, Jon, we really appreciate you coming on here. And Raider Nation, be calm. Quit playing Derek cards. Like you said, it takes, the offense, the defense, and the special teams to all come together to help the team win. So let's keep that in mind. And thank you again, Jon.
his whole career with the Raiders, he was Mr. Dependable. And that's kind of what we want to translate to the Raider Nation now. Just hang in there with us. Be dependable, just like Jon Condo. Hang in there with us. Jon, thank you so much for coming on. And we are right there with you. And just like always, we say, Raiders for life.
Okay, T3, I think it's time for another Heidi's High Five.
And now it's time for another Heidi's High Five.
All right, this week's version of Heidi's High Five, number 1. So now that we know that Gus Bradley will be the guy to lead the defense, what is the first step that he will take in his new role with his new team? One thing that he's already said is this: we're going to add defenses and we're going to be very multiple, but not at the expense that we don't play fast. That's first and foremost. Well, I hope he takes the time to assess every single position and then address one or two pieces right away via free agency, and then on to the draft. And this will be a very critical draft this year for the defense. Number 2, Denzel Good. As we move into free agency, I hope the Raiders make every effort to re-sign this guy. He's proven to be such a versatile piece on the offensive line and stepped up numerous times during the season. My fear is that some other team is going to see the talent and pitch a bunch of money his way, and he deserves it. Let's just hope that he ends up back with the silver and black next season. Number 3, okay, we have some decisions to make at receiver for next season. First, a decision must be made about Nelson Agholor, we mentioned earlier. He emerged this season as Derek Carr's number 2 weapon behind Darren Waller. And as he tests the free agent market, I think he may end up getting some big money elsewhere unless the Raiders pony up. So what do the Raiders do? Do they shell out the money for Agholor? Do they go after somebody else in free agency? Or do they turn their eyes to the draft? We'll keep an eye on this situation as it develops. Number 4, parting is such sweet sorrow, unless your names happen to be Malik Collins and Carl Nassib. I'm sorry, but you guys came in and my expectations for both of you were sky high. But instead of seeing a bunch of sack numbers on the stat sheet, all I saw were a bunch of poopy emojis. Regardless of who comes in to take over the defense and regardless of what other changes are made on the roster, these are 2 guys I would really like to see in other uniforms next year. Now, I'm not the coach, so I have no say, but that's just my opinion. And number 5, the other question we have on the roster, Homer, like you mentioned, is the backup to Josh Jacobs. Now, Jacobs is the man, but he's had to deal with injury, and we know the careers of running backs in this league is not long-lived. Devontae Booker did a great job in a backup role this past season, but is he the solution going forward? Could that possibly be addressed during free agency? If not then, perhaps during the draft. And that is this week's version of Heidi's High Five.
All right, Raider Nation, we are the Only Nation podcast, and we want to hear from the Only Nation. So give us a call at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or text message at that number, or send us a message via social media, and we will share your thoughts.
Okay, Homer, how about we hear something from T3 about something that you didn't know?
Okay.
Hey Homer, did you know?
All right, in this week's version of Homer Did You Know? Very superstitious. So it seems that the Raiders of the 70s were very superstitious about where they stayed whenever they traveled to both Denver and San Diego. In Denver, the location of choice was the Continental. In San Diego, it was the Stardust Motel. But in 1977, the year after the Raiders won their first Super Bowl, things changed. In 1977, Denver beat the Raiders twice and won the division for the first time in their history. That was also the year that management of the Continental kicked them out and said they had to find lodging elsewhere. After the AFC Championship game that year, which the Raiders lost to Denver, Al Davis was said to have gone all around the office grumbling, "I told you so," in my horrible Al Davis accent there. Earlier in the season, the Raiders came into San Diego boasting an 18-game winning streak against the Chargers. But just before the teams were set to meet in San Diego, Chargers management decided to move the home team into the Stardust Motel, forcing the Raiders over to the Highland. Whether superstition was the reason for the forced move, no one knows. But what we do know is that the Chargers won that game 12-7, breaking an 18-game losing streak against the Silver and Black. And so if you don't believe in any kind of superstition at all, I thought I would just present you with these facts. And they both happened the year after the Raiders won their first world championship. And that is this week's version of Hey Homer, Did You Know?
Well, Heidi called it. I did not know. But, yeah, superstition is important. I remember I used to wear, same, socks or whatever, stuff like that. I was very superstitious when I played sports, so it is what it is.
I remember my senior year in high school, I always had the superstition of wearing my raglan shirt underneath my softball uniform when I was pitching. Didn't matter how hot it was, I did it. And I remember one game against our arch rival, arch nemesis, that it was insanely hot. I think it was already over 100 degrees, and I was still going to do it. So I soaked that shirt in cold water, put it on, put my uniform on top of it, and we won. Hit a home run, too.
There you go.
I thought about sampling the Stevie Wonder song Superstition as a backdrop, but I was a little superstitious about what might happen.
Exactly. You understand. You understand.
All right. It's time for the best segment of the show that I came up with, Heidi's Heroes.
You didn't exactly come up with it. You named it.
Okay.
But it was a great name. I can't deny that. As cheesy as it was, I had to go with it.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
All right, this week's hero is Mr. Daniel Carlson. He is the kicker that we got out of Auburn. He was drafted by the Vikings, and to start off his rookie year, he did not have a good start. He ended up being released by them, and we picked him up a little while later. He didn't have that great of a year last year, but this year he really, really poured it on. This month, for December and January, they combined it. He was the AFC Special Teams Player of the Month. He scored a total of 44 points that month, and he passed Sebastian Janikowski as the single highest point scorer in Raiders history. Not only that, but he improved his own single-season field goal percentage mark with 94.3%. That's also a Raiders record. For the months of December and January, his 44 points tied him for 5th in the NFL among all points scored by kickers. And he also tied for the total amount of points scored in the season with 144. Daniel Carlson, we salute you. AFC Special Teams Player of the Month. Heidi's hero.
Man, this is a special teams heavy episode.
He's still going to have to endure the slings and arrows from all the Bama people when they come back to training camp.
Yeah, I really like him. He's really grown on me. His rookie year, he came in midway through the season, really solidified our kicking game. Like I said, a little iffy last year, but this past year, great season. Really, really solid player.
I was hopeful for him at the beginning of the year, but I'm ready to go into battle with him now.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thanks again to our listeners for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. You can follow me on social media as @KeplerPromdress on Twitter or on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook listed as Heidi Stabbert.
All right, Raider Nation, we want to hear from you. You give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message to that number. You can also email us at onlynationpod@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram by going to @onlynationpod. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at the Only Nation Podcast. And you can find me by searching Raider Homer across the board.
Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite social media account and podcasting app. Make sure to leave your name, address, and phone number. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we can use on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us, 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. And you can find me on social media, on Twitter at T3_sports703, on YouTube at T3 Sports Guy, and on Facebook at Tom, THOM Jones.
Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
We are not just a nation. We are the only nation.